First contact, first love. James Harrison never expected to find love during interstellar peace negotiations. As Earth's leading diplomatic advisor, his focus had always been on protecting humanity's interests in an increasingly complex galactic community. Yet here he was, completely captivated by Ambassador Nemea of the Stellarian Empire. The first time they met was during the opening ceremony of the Galactic Unity Summit on New Geneva Station. Nemea stood out among the diverse alien representatives, her iridescent skin shifting between subtle shades of azure and violet, matching her emotional state. Her large, almond-shaped eyes contained swirling patterns that resembled distant nebulae. Ambassador Harrison, she greeted him with a slight bow, her translator pendant converting her melodic language into crisp English. Your reputation precedes you. I look forward to our discussions about the trade routes through the Orion Arm. James found himself momentarily speechless, something that hadn't happened in his 15 years of diplomatic service. The pleasure is mine, Ambassador Nemea. Though I must admit, your people's achievements in sustainable energy far outshine any diplomatic accomplishments I might claim. Their initial meetings were strictly professional, focused on negotiating safe passage rights and trade agreements. But during the long hours of discussion, James noticed how Nemea's skin would shimmer more brilliantly when she spoke about her homeworld's culture. He found himself sharing stories about Earth's traditions, delighting in her fascination with human customs. One evening, after a particularly challenging negotiation session, they found themselves alone in the station's observation deck. The vast expanse of space stretched before them, billions of stars twinkling against the infinite darkness. Your species is quite remarkable, Nemea said softly, her skin pulsing with gentle waves of blue light. Despite being one of the younger races in the galaxy, you've adapted so quickly to interstellar society. James turned to face her, noticing how the starlight seemed to dance across her features. We're survivors, he replied. But we're also dreamers. Humanity has always looked to the stars and imagined possibilities. Dreamers, she repeated, testing the word. We have a similar concept among my people. We call it Shira, those who see beyond the visible horizon. Their conversations grew more personal over the following weeks. James learned about Stellarian family structures, their complex system of honor bonds, and their deeply held belief in cosmic destiny. Nemea, in turn, was fascinated by human concepts of romantic love, individual choice, and the endless variety of Earth's cultures. The turning point came during the summit's cultural exchange event. James had spent weeks practicing a traditional Stellarian greeting dance, determined to show respect for Nemea's customs. When he performed it, albeit somewhat clumsily, her skin erupted in a brilliant display of colors that left the other delegates murmuring in appreciation. You learned the song of welcome, she said later, her voice trembling slightly. Few outsiders take the time to understand our ways so deeply. I wanted to show you that humanity values more than just trade agreements and security pacts, James admitted. We value connections, understanding, growth. Their relationship evolved naturally after that, though not without its challenges. The Stellarian concept of courtship involved complex ritual exchanges of energy patterns, something James could only approximate through human gestures. Meanwhile, Nemea struggled to understand human concepts of personal space and privacy, as her people lived in constant communal awareness. Yet somehow, their differences made their connection stronger. James found himself mesmerized by Nemea's ability to communicate emotions through bioluminescence, while she was captivated by the intensity of human facial expressions and body language. The diplomatic corps buzzed with gossip about their growing closeness, but James couldn't bring himself to care. Every moment with Nemea felt like discovering a new constellation, familiar elements combining to create something beautiful and unexpected. When the summit was drawing to a close, they faced their first real crisis. Nemea received orders to return to the Stellarian homeworld for an arranged bonding ceremony, a tradition she had never mentioned to James. My family has chosen a suitable match, she explained, her skin dimmed to muted grays. It is our way. Individual preferences are secondary to the harmony of the collective. James felt his heart sink, but years of diplomatic training helped him maintain his composure. "I understand duty," he said carefully. "But in my experience, the best diplomatic solutions come when we find ways to honor tradition while embracing new possibilities." Nemia's skin flickered with uncertainty. "What are you suggesting?" "Let me present my case to your family council," James proposed. "Let me show them that love between our peoples can strengthen both our societies. After all, isn't that what the summit was about, finding ways for different species to enrich each other's lives?" His words sparked a cascade of colors across Nemia's skin, hope and fear and something deeper swirling in patterns he was only beginning to understand. The path ahead would be challenging, but as they stood together among the stars, James knew that some connections transcended the boundaries of worlds and species. The summit might be ending, but their story was just beginning. Bridging two worlds. The journey to the Stellarian homeworld of Luminara tested every diplomatic skill James had ever learned. The crystalline spires of the capital city sparkled like diamonds against the purple sky, but he barely noticed their beauty. His thoughts were focused entirely on the challenge ahead, convincing the Stellarian High Council to accept a human's petition for bonding rights. Nemia's family occupied an entire district of bioluminescent structures that pulsed in harmony with their inhabitants' emotions. As they approached, James noticed the buildings dimming slightly, perhaps reflecting the family's uncertainty about his presence. "Remember," Nemia whispered, her own skin shifting nervously between shades of violet and silver, "my mother is the first speaker. Address her thoughts directly, even if they seem uncomfortable. Hesitation is seen as weakness among our people." James adjusted his formal diplomatic attire, equipped with special sensors that could detect and respond to Stellarian energy patterns. "I'm ready," he assured her, though his racing heart suggested otherwise. The greeting chamber was filled with dozens of Stellarians, their collective bioluminescence creating an aurora-like display across the curved ceiling. At the center stood Nemia's mother, first speaker Venna, her tall frame emanating an aura of authority that transcended species barriers. "James Harrison of Earth," Venna's voice resonated through the chamber, her translator rendering perfect English, "you come before us with an unprecedented request. Our records show no successful bonding between humans and Stellarians. Why should we consider breaking thousands of years of tradition?" James stepped forward, activating the ceremonial response patterns he'd spent weeks practicing. His suit emitted subtle pulses of light that, while crude by Stellarian standards, demonstrated his respect for their customs. "Honorable First Speaker," he began, maintaining steady eye contact with Venna's swirling irises, "I stand before you not just as a human seeking bonding rights, but as a bridge between our peoples. The universe is evolving. Species that once never knew of each other's existence now share technologies, resources, and ideas. Why should we not also share love?" A murmur rippled through the assembled family members, their skin colors shifting in a cascade of reactions. Venna's expression remained unreadable, but her bioluminescence intensified. "Pretty words, diplomat. But bonding in our culture is more than emotional attachment. It requires physical and energy compatibility. The chosen mate for Nemia can share in her life force, sustain her during the sacred ceremonies, provide viable offspring to continue our lineage. Can you offer these things?" James had anticipated this argument. He gestured to a human medical officer who stepped forward with a holographic display. "We've conducted extensive compatibility studies," he explained. "While humans and Stellarians have different energy manifestations, our research shows that human emotional energy can resonate with Stellarian life force patterns. Moreover, genetic analysis suggests viable hybrid offspring are possible with minimal medical intervention." The medical officer displayed detailed charts and simulations, showing how human and Stellarian energy patterns could harmonize. James noticed several council members leaning forward with interest, their skin tones shifting to colors associated with scientific curiosity. "And what of children?" another family elder demanded. Stellarian offspring require specific energy frequencies during development. How could a human father provide this? Through adaptation and innovation, James replied confidently. We've developed technologies that can supplement any natural energy deficiencies. But more importantly, our children would have something unique, the strength of both worlds, the wisdom of two ancient cultures. Nemia moved to stand beside him, her skin glowing with a brilliant intensity that made several family members gasp. Mother, elders, family, she addressed them in their native tongue, letting James' translator handle the conversion. I've spent months studying human culture. Their capacity for love, their dedication to family, their ability to adapt and grow, these qualities mirror our own highest ideals. James has already proven his commitment by learning our ways, respecting our traditions, while offering new perspectives that could enrich our society. The chamber fell silent as Venna rose from her seat, approaching the couple. Her bioluminescence pulsed with complex patterns that James had learned indicated deep contemplation. She circled them slowly, her ethereal glow interacting with the light patterns from both Nemia and James' diplomatic suit. There is truth in your words, she finally acknowledged, but truth alone does not guarantee harmony. We require proof of your compatibility beyond scientific data and diplomatic promises. Name your test, James replied without hesitation. I'll undergo any trial to prove my commitment. Venna's skin flickered with what James recognized as approval. The ceremony of shared light. If you can achieve even a basic energy resonance with Nemia during the ritual, we will consider your petition. James felt Nemia tense beside him. The ceremony of shared light was typically performed only between Stellarians with years of training. For a human to attempt it was almost unheard of. I accept, he declared, earning surprised murmurs from the assembled family. The next 3 weeks were intense. James underwent rigorous training with Stellarian energy masters, learning to tap into what they called his inner light, the electromagnetic fields naturally present in human bodies but usually ignored. The process was exhausting, often leaving him drained and discouraged, but Nemia's presence kept him motivated. Most Stellarians take years to master these techniques, she told him one evening as they practiced in a private meditation chamber. You're attempting to learn them in weeks. I have an excellent incentive, he smiled, concentrating on maintaining a steady energy pattern. Besides, humans are remarkably adaptable. It's one of our better qualities. The day of the ceremony arrived too quickly and not soon enough. Standing in the sacred chamber, surrounded by Nemia's entire extended family, James felt both terrified and strangely calm. The ritual began with ancient songs that seemed to make the very air vibrate with energy. Nemia stood opposite him, her skin glowing with nervous anticipation. As the ritual masters began the energy-focusing chants, James cleared his mind of everything except his connection to her. He recalled every moment they'd shared, every laugh, every discovery, every challenge they'd overcome together. To everyone's amazement, including his own, a faint aura began to emanate from his skin, not the artificial light of his diplomatic suit, but a genuine human bioelectric field made visible through the chamber's sensitive atmosphere. As Nemia's own bioluminescence reached out to meet his energy, their auras merged in a display of colors never before seen in the sacred chamber. The ritual masters fell silent, staring in wonder at the unprecedented sight. Even Venna seemed momentarily speechless, her own bioluminescence pulsing with surprise and something that looked remarkably like hope. Well, she finally said, her voice carrying a new warmth, it seems the universe still has surprises to teach us all. A universal bond. Planning an interspecies wedding proved to be more complex than any diplomatic negotiation James had ever handled. The ceremony needed to honor both Earth and Stellarian traditions while creating something entirely new, much like their relationship itself. The energy binding must happen at the exact moment of your planet's sunset, Nemia explained as they sat in their private quarters, surrounded by holographic wedding plans. Her skin rippled with excited patterns of gold and rose. It's when the atmospheric resonance is strongest. James smiled, watching the play of colors across her skin. And on Earth, sunset is traditionally considered the most romantic time for weddings. See? We're finding common ground already. The chosen venue was the newly constructed Harmony Gardens on neutral space station Nova Terra, specifically designed for interspecies gatherings. Its transparent dome offered a stunning view of both Earth and the distant star cluster that included Luminara, symbolically linking their two worlds. As the day approached, both families arrived, creating a fascinating clash of cultures. James' parents, despite their years of diplomatic experience, couldn't help but stare in wonder at the luminescent displays of Nemia's relatives. Meanwhile, the Stellarians were equally fascinated by human emotional expressions, particularly laughter and tears of joy. Your mother's biopatterns indicate confusion, Nemia observed during the rehearsal dinner, watching James' mother dab at her eyes with a tissue. Happy tears, James explained, squeezing her hand. Humans often cry when we're overwhelmed with positive emotions. It's our way of releasing intense feelings. Fascinating, Nemia murmured, her skin shifting to match the silvery tracks of his mother's tears in a gesture of empathy that made James fall in love with her all over again. The wedding day dawned with an unexpected challenge. The station's artificial atmosphere generators began malfunctioning, threatening to disrupt the delicate energy patterns necessary for the Stellarian bonding ritual. James found Nemia in their preparation chamber, her skin flickering with distress. Without the proper atmospheric resonance, the energy binding won't take, she explained, her voice trembling. The ceremony will be incomplete in the eyes of my people. James thought quickly, years of diplomatic problem-solving kicking in. What if we don't fight the atmospheric changes, he suggested. What if we incorporate them? He called an emergency meeting with both families and the ceremony planners. The Stellarian ritual requires energy harmony, right? And human weddings are about joining two lives together. What if we use the atmospheric fluctuations to create a new kind of resonance? The next few hours were a flurry of activity. Human engineers worked alongside Stellarian energy masters, modifying the environmental systems to create a unique atmospheric pattern that would enhance both species' natural energy fields. The result was unprecedented, a shimming, aurora-like effect that filled the entire garden dome. As the ceremony began, guests from both worlds watched in awe. James stood beneath the transparent dome, wearing a formal suit embedded with bioresponsive crystals that reflected his emotional state. When Nemia appeared, her skin glowing with patterns of love and commitment that needed no translation, the crystals in his suit burst into synchronized illumination. The human officiant and Stellarian ritual master worked in harmony, their words weaving together like the energy patterns dancing above them. When James spoke his vows, he did so in both English and carefully practiced Stellarian tonal patterns. I pledge not just my love, he declared, his suit's crystals pulsing in time with his heartbeat, but my commitment to building bridges between our worlds. Every difference between us is an opportunity to grow, every challenge a chance to prove that love transcends the boundaries of species and space. Nemia's response came in waves of light and color that the human guests could see translated on their special viewing screens. In you, I find the truth of what my people have always taught, that the universe seeks harmony through diversity. Our love is proof that the cosmos wants us to reach beyond our own kind to find connection. The moment of binding approached as Earth's sun began to set, visible through the dome's western face. The atmospheric fluctuations that had threatened to ruin the ceremony instead created a spectacular display, refracting the sunlight into prismatic patterns that seemed to dance with Nemia's bioluminescence. As they joined hands, James felt the familiar tingle of their energy fields connecting. But this time, enhanced by the modified atmosphere and their shared emotions, something extraordinary happened. His natural human bioelectric field became visible to everyone, a soft blue aura that merged perfectly with Nemia's radiant glow. The Stellarian ritual master's voice filled with awe. In all my years of performing bonding ceremonies, I have never seen such a perfect energy synthesis. The human officiant smiled warmly. By the laws of Earth and the energy patterns of Luminara, I now pronounce you united in marriage and cosmic harmony." Their first kiss as a married couple created a burst of light that rippled through the garden dome, causing gasps of wonder from all present. Even the most traditional members of both families couldn't deny the beauty of their union. The celebration that followed was a joyous blend of human and Stellarian customs. Earth's classical music played alongside Stellarian harmonic resonances, creating an otherworldly symphony. The dance floor became a spectacular light show as Stellarian guests' bioluminescence responded to the rhythm of human music. James' father gave a touching speech about love's power to bridge any distance, while Nemia's mother performed a traditional light blessing that left no doubt about her acceptance of their union. The feast featured carefully designed dishes that both species could enjoy, each course paired with drinks that enhanced natural energy patterns. Late in the evening, James and Nemia stood at the dome's observation point, watching both their worlds shine in the distance. Her skin had settled into a deep, contented purple that matched the space between the stars. "Did you ever imagine," she asked softly, "when we first met at the summit, that we'd end up here?" James pulled her close, feeling the gentle hum of their energy fields harmonizing. "I knew from the moment I saw you that my life would never be the same. I just didn't realize how much better different could be." A shower of meteorites chose that moment to streak across the space between their home worlds, leaving trails of light that mirrored the pattern still dancing in the garden's atmosphere. It seemed the universe itself was celebrating their union, a perfect end to a day that proved love knows no boundaries, not even those between the stars. Stellar expectations. 6 months into their marriage, James and Nemia faced their first major challenge during a routine visit to Luminara. They sat in the family's ancestral chamber, surrounded by the pulsing bioluminescent walls, as Nemia's mother Venna delivered the news that would shake their comfortable routine. "The Council of Lineages expects an announcement of conception by the next solar alignment," Venna stated, her skin rippling with formal patterns. "Our family's position requires at least 8 offspring to maintain proper energy distribution within the community." James nearly choked on his ceremonial tea. 8, he managed, feeling the weight of Stellarian expectations pressing down on him. "That's quite a number." Nemia's skin flickered with nervous patterns. "Actually, beloved, 8 is the minimum. Traditional families of our standing typically have between 12 and 15 children." The room seemed to spin slightly as James processed this information. He'd known Stellarians valued large families, but the actual numbers hadn't come up in their previous discussions. "On Earth, most families have 1 or 2 children," he explained carefully. "Maybe 3. The resources required for raising children." "Resources?" Venna's skin pulsed with confusion. "Our children require only energy and wisdom, both of which our family has in abundance. Unless..." Her patterns shifted to concern, "human reproduction is more demanding." Nemia placed her hand over James, sending soothing energy pulses through their connection. "Perhaps we should consult the xenobiologists," she suggested. "Our situation is unique, after all." The following weeks became a whirlwind of medical consultations and cultural negotiations. The xenobiology team at the Interspecies Medical Center worked tirelessly to understand the implications of human Stellarian reproduction. The good news, Dr. Oren, the lead researcher, explained in their private consultation room, is that conception is possible. "The energy field compatibility you've achieved makes genetic fusion viable. However..." She paused, bringing up a holographic display of cellular interactions. "The process will be more complex than either typical human or Stellarian reproduction." James watched the simulation of combined DNA structures spinning above the desk. "What exactly does that mean for us?" "It means," Dr. Oren continued, "that each pregnancy will require careful monitoring. The hybrid embryo will need both physical nutrients and energy field sustenance. We'll essentially be pioneering a new form of prenatal care." Nemia's skin rippled with determination. "Whatever it takes. Our children will be worth any effort." The real challenge came when they presented the medical findings to the Council of Lineages. The ancient chamber, with its crystalline walls recording the bioluminescent patterns of countless generations, felt particularly intimidating that day. One child every 2 years. The head elder's skin flashed with disapproval. This is unprecedented. The energy flow of generations must be maintained. James stepped forward, his diplomatic training kicking in. Honorable elders, consider this, our children will be the first of their kind. They'll possess unique abilities, combining human adaptability with Stellarian energy manipulation. Quality over quantity could actually strengthen the lineage. A murmur rippled through the assembled council members, their skin patterns shifting in complex debates. Nemia joined him, her own patterns projecting confidence and pride. My mate speaks wisdom, she declared. Our children will bridge 2 worlds, carrying both the ancient energy patterns of Luminara and the innovative spirit of Earth. Is this not worth adapting our traditional expectations? The debate lasted hours, with various council members arguing for tradition or adaptation. Finally, a compromise was reached. They would be expected to have a minimum of 4 children, with the understanding that each child's unique hybrid nature would contribute double the usual energy resonance to the family lineage. Later that night, in their private quarters, James and Nemia finally had a chance to process everything. The room's bioluminescent walls pulsed softly with their mixed emotions. For children, James mused, watching the play of lights across the ceiling. It's more than I originally imagined, but less than your family wanted. Are you disappointed? Nemia curled against him, her skin glowing with warm, intimate patterns. How could I be disappointed? We're creating something entirely new. Our children will be unique in all the galaxy. The reality of their situation hit home several weeks later when their first attempt at conception proved successful. The medical center erupted with excitement as the first human Stellarian embryo developed, displaying both physical form and energy patterns. Look, Nemia whispered during an examination, her skin pulsing with joy as they watched the holographic display. The tiny being inside her was already exhibiting signs of both species, a physical form surrounded by a distinct energy field. James felt overwhelmed with emotion. It's perfect, he managed, watching the small life they'd created pulse with its own unique bioluminescence. The pregnancy became a subject of intense scientific and cultural interest. Xenobiologists monitored every stage of development while Stellarian energy masters worked to understand how the hybrid child's energy patterns were developing. James found himself learning entirely new ways to support his wife. Traditional human prenatal care had to be combined with Stellarian energy practices. He spent hours each day practicing energy transfer techniques, learning to share his own bioelectric field in ways that would support both Nemia and their growing child. Your energy patterns are getting stronger, Nemia observed one evening during their daily bonding session. Her skin glowed with pride and love. Soon you'll be better at this than some Stellarians. I have excellent motivation, he replied, concentrating on maintaining the steady flow of energy between them. Besides, our child seems to respond well to both types of energy. Indeed, their unborn child was already showing signs of being something extraordinary. During routine scans, the medical team discovered that the baby could instinctively shift between drawing sustenance from physical nutrients and energy fields. It's as if the child has inherited the best survival mechanisms from both species, Dr. Oren explained excitedly. This could revolutionize our understanding of interspecies genetics. The news helped ease some of the remaining concerns among the more traditional members of Nemia's family. Even Venna had to admit that the unique qualities of their hybrid child might indeed be worth the departure from traditional family size expectations. As Nemia's pregnancy progressed, their home became a beautiful blend of both worlds' preparation traditions. The nursery walls were programmed to pulse with soothing earth lullabies translated into Stellarian light patterns. Traditional human baby furniture was modified to incorporate energy-conducting crystals that would help the child develop both physical and energy manipulation abilities. For might actually be perfect, Nemia mused one night as they lay in bed, her skin glowing with the special patterns unique to expectant Stellarian mothers. Each child will need so much individual attention to develop both their human and Stellarian abilities. James placed his hand on her swollen belly, feeling the distinctive tingle of their child's developing energy field. Quality over quantity, he agreed. Though with how special each one will be, we might have our hands full even with just 4. The compromise they'd reached wasn't just about numbers, it represented a new way forward, a path that honored both their cultures while creating something entirely unique. Their family would be smaller than Stellarian tradition demanded but larger than typical human families, existing in a beautiful balance between two worlds. As they drifted off to sleep, the room's bioluminescent walls pulsed with their contentment, their shared dreams of the future painting patterns of hope across the ceiling. Their child would be the first of a new kind of family, one that proved love could bridge not just the distance between stars, but the very nature of what it meant to be human or Stellarian. Cosmic compromise. 3 years had passed since the birth of their first child, Aurora, whose very existence had changed both human and Stellarian society's views on interspecies relationships. Now, as James held their second child, a son they named Orion, he marveled at how his family embodied the perfect blend of both worlds. Aurora played in the corner of the medical center's recovery room, her skin shifting between human tones and Stellarian luminescence as she concentrated on building a tower of energy-reactive blocks. Each block glowed in response to her touch, a demonstration of her unique hybrid abilities. "Papa, look," she called out, her eyes sparkling with both Earth's brown and Stellarian silver speckles. The blocks floated briefly before settling into place, showcasing her growing control over both physical and energy manipulation. "Beautiful, Starlight," James praised, using his special nickname for her. Beside him, Nemea rested after giving birth, her skin glowing with maternal contentment as she watched their daughter. "She's already stronger than most pure Stellarian children her age," Nemea observed proudly. "And Orion's energy readings are even higher than hers were at birth." The medical staff had indeed been amazed by their son's initial readings. Born with a natural ability to harmonize both human and Stellarian energy patterns, Orion represented another leap forward in their species' combined potential. "The Council of Lineages will be pleased," James remarked, gently rocking Orion as the baby's skin shifted through subtle colors in his sleep. 2 children, each stronger than a dozen pure-blood Stellarians in terms of energy contribution. Nemea's skin flickered with amusement. "They've certainly changed their tune about numbers since Aurora started showing her abilities. Remember how worried they were about our small family plan?" The change in attitude hadn't come easily. It took Aurora's first public energy manifestation, creating a spectacular light show during a formal ceremony at age 2, to convince the most traditional elders that hybrid children might actually strengthen the Stellarian lineage more than pure-blood offspring. "Dr. Oren wants to study their energy patterns again," James mentioned, settling into a chair beside Nemea's bed. "She thinks understanding how they naturally balance both species' characteristics could help other interspecies couples." "The universe is changing," Nemea mused, reaching out to stroke Orion's cheek. "More species are finding love across traditional boundaries. We're just the beginning." Their family had indeed become a symbol of hope for other interspecies couples. Their home on Nova Terra Station had become a frequent stop for couples seeking advice on bridging cultural differences and handling family expectations. Aurora abandoned her blocks and climbed onto her mother's bed, careful of the energy field monitors still attached to Nemea. "Mama, can I show Orion how to make light patterns?" "When he's a bit older, sweet one," Nemea laughed, her skin rippling with maternal joy. "For now, he needs to develop his own natural rhythms." James watched his daughter's face scrunch in thought, so much like his own expression when puzzling through diplomatic challenges. "But I can practice with him, right? Like how Papa practices with me." The daily energy training sessions with Aurora had become one of James's favorite parts of fatherhood. Though he couldn't naturally produce the same brilliant displays as his daughter, their practice sessions had strengthened his own energy manipulation abilities far beyond what most humans could achieve. "Of course you can," he assured her. That's what big sisters are for, helping their siblings grow strong. A soft chime interrupted their family moment, followed by a holographic message notification. Vena's image appeared, her skin patterns expressing formal joy. The council has reviewed the initial energy readings from our newest grandchild, she announced. They've made an unprecedented decision. Given the extraordinary strength of both Aurora and Orion's hybrid energy patterns, they're officially recognizing your family line as equivalent to a traditional 15-child Stellarian family. James and Nemea exchanged surprised looks. This was more than just acceptance, it was a formal acknowledgement that their path, though different, was equally valid. Furthermore, Vena continued, her patterns shifting to show pride, they're establishing new guidelines for interspecies families, using your example as the template. Quality of energy contribution will now be considered alongside quantity in all lineage calculations. After the message ended, the room fell into contemplative silence, broken only by Aurora's quiet humming as she practiced making small light patterns above her baby brother. "We did it," Nemea whispered, her skin glowing with triumph. "We proved that love doesn't need to follow traditional paths to honor tradition's purpose." James leaned down to kiss her, feeling the familiar tingle of their energy fields merging. "We did more than that. We opened the door for others to find their own way." As if in response to his parents' joy, Orion's sleeping form began to glow more intensely, his energy field harmonizing with the family's emotions. Aurora gasped in delight, her own patterns synchronizing with her brother's. The sight of his children's combined light show reminded James of something his mother had told him just before his wedding: love isn't about erasing differences or forcing changes. It's about finding the beauty in combination, the strength in diversity. Looking at his family now, his Stellarian wife, their remarkable children, and the life they'd built between worlds, he knew they'd achieved exactly that. Their family might be smaller than Stellarian tradition demanded, but each member shone brighter than anyone could have predicted. "What are you thinking?" Nemea asked, noticing his contemplative expression. "I'm thinking about all the times people told us our love was impossible," he replied, watching Aurora create increasingly complex light patterns while Orion slept peacefully. "About how many obstacles we faced. And how every challenge just made us stronger." Nemea's skin rippled with understanding. "That's the real legacy we're leaving for our children, not just their hybrid abilities, but the knowledge that love can bridge any distance, overcome any difference." As if to emphasize her point, Aurora managed to create a perfect replica of Earth's solar system in dancing lights above them, while Orion's sleeping form added his own unconscious energy to make the stars twinkle more brightly. "Besides," James added with a smile, "who needs 15 children when our two can light up the entire galaxy?" The family laughed together, their combined joy creating patterns of light that danced across the medical center's walls. Outside their window, Earth and Luminara's star were both visible, twinkling in the distance like proud parents watching over their own hybrid family. Their story had begun with cultural conflict and expectations of impossible numbers, but it had evolved into something far more meaningful, proof that love didn't need to follow traditional paths to create something beautiful and lasting. In bridging the gap between their species, they'd created not just a family, but a new way forward for all those who dared to love across the stars.